Welcome, everybody, as people are signing on. Thank you so much for attending today's HR Disruptor Summit Fall 2021 Speaker Series. Again, as everybody come on in, where are we getting people from? Go ahead and type in the chat. Would love to see who's out there and who's connected. Today's guest, I am just so excited. And I'd love this, not only the spelling, but how UB pronounces his last name, UB Ciminieri. My friend, thank you so much for joining us today. And of course, as the HR Disruptor Summit, we are, since starting last year, we launched in October of 2021. Our main purpose is to bring innovative companies that are related to HR, and bringing products and services to HR is one of our biggest, we just love finding those innovative companies. And the dear Catherine McCord, who is also on our speaker list and with her ATS, she introduced us, and I just so greatly appreciate this opportunity for you to share your story and talk about literally disrupting the interview process. So welcome, UB.
Thank you. Yes, I'm really excited. And yeah, as always, thank you to Catherine McCord. She's an amazing connector. So it was great timing. I think we talk about that a lot. And so, the InterviewIA story and why we kind of fit into this world of disruption, especially in HR, is, we've as a team have been working on this problem for almost 6 years now, focused on reimagining the interview process and the hiring process for companies. We'd like to talk about the story of Thomas Edison. Over 100 years ago, he basically the modern version of the interview as we know it, right? And so he was interviewing people to work in his lab with him, an assistant. And so what he did, before he even talked to any candidates, he would put a bowl of soup in front of them. And if they dared salt or pepper the soup before they tasted it, he would immediately dismiss them from the interview process, because he felt like they were innovation killers, right? We still interview people and make decisions about candidates like that today, right? The same thing.
And what year was that, UB? I mean, come on, 100 years ago?
It was 100 years ago this year.
Oh, Lord. You talk about
right. So the status quo of interviewing hasn't changed in 100 freaking years. And a lot of it,
100 years.
There's even, studies from the 40s that support the fact that structured interviews produce a much better result than not. But yet, and this is where we get in the way of ourselves as human beings. We believe that our gut feeling and our intuition surpasses all else. And that's really what's kept us from truly adopting a structured, data-driven interview process.
That ego, right? I mean, people don't realize, human beings, we cannot be objective about ourselves or others. It's called the self-perception theory. It's not woo-woo. It's called the self-perception theory. It's just impossible. So why would we want to rely on something that's fallible?
Right? Because we don't trust anything but ourselves, right? And to your point.
Oh, Lord.
And so that's where we found this problem. And then you scale that tremendously, right, within an organization, because you end up, you end up promoting people into hiring manager roles where they're having to interview and build their teams, but you're doing it without training. You're doing it without understanding if this person can make the right decision. So we've now put the responsibility, the heavy responsibility of building our companies with the right talent to be a successful company on people who, many of whom shouldn't be interviewing, many of whom have never trained, all of whom aren't built to, objectively evaluate and judge people. None of us are. But that's what we've relied on. And so we spent 5 years as consultants going into organizations, working with leaders to help them, kind of manually reimagine their process, training, hiring managers on just interviewing basics and biases within the interview, training them on how to create a structured interview process and how to objectively and equally score and rank all your candidates. And then last year, as COVID was starting to impact everything, that consulting business started to really slow down. And we had talked about building a technology and interview platform to take all of that work we'd done for the last 5 years and turn it into a technology-driven support mechanism for interviewers. And so we just decided to do it. And
I love it. I love it. And that's going to be launching big time, would you say, next week?
Yeah, so it's live.
Yay.
We're launching our new self-service. So really, our goal is to put this in the hands of every interviewer, and there shouldn't be any obstacle like price stopping them from doing that. So we have a self-service free subscription. We're launching with an interviewer subscription plan that's I think it's about $8 a month or something like that, or you can do annual and save a little money. And then, so that's you get a little more there. But then there's the team version, which allows you to collaborate with your whole team. So everybody is working together.
That's just makes sense. And what I'm excited and what we'll put in there for everybody, we have UB gave us HR Disruptor Summit subscribers and fans are going to have a special link so you can try this service for free. So thank you so much, UB, for valuing everybody here. I really appreciate you. And we're going to be showing that right up there. And also we will be posting that on LinkedIn, on the event site on LinkedIn, in the details. So don't worry if you'll miss it today, we will have it. So awesome. So UB, when we talk about some of the basics, when we first said, okay, we really want to, what's the biggest pain? And like you said about what keeps you from being confident? I think that being really the soul and the foundation of any interviewer, you got to be confident in knowing all those aspects of the specific questions to ask that are related to the job, right? I mean, there's just so much that goes around if you don't feel confident. I mean, that's affecting not only your interview, but the rest of that hiring process for that candidate, right? I mean, your one person can really affect the positive, really hiring the right person. One person in the interview team can ruin that whole process, right?
Absolutely. And that, and even, and again, not to drill the fear and stress and anxiety of the process, into people, into interviewers, but honestly, if you ask one wrong question, that can cause literally a lawsuit, right?
That's exactly right.
We've seen it happen. And so, from the stress, that's the thing, there's so many resources out there for candidates, always has been, really basically saying, hey, here's how to game the system. Here's how to make friends with all your interviewers. And here's how to be the shiniest object of all the candidates in that candidate pool so that you get the job. When in reality, why are we not supporting the interviewers? Why are we not helping the interviewers not be gatekeepers? Because that's inevitably what they become, is the gatekeeper. How many people can they screen out of the process?
Exclusion. That's so right. It's all about exclusion, really. When somebody talks about the interview process, I'm like, well, I got to be real honest, knowing what I know about HR and working with them. It's an exclusion process. They're seeing who doesn't fit. Again, that mindset, right? And that doesn't serve anybody well. And that's why I love the fact of how about harnessing and leveraging technology that takes that away, that element away, right?
Well, that's the big thing. And it's that there's two ways technology that can go in this scenario, right? There's a lot of AI out there currently, HR tech driven by AI, that's actually meant, the intention is good, but the outcome is not. So you put AI in to screen resumes for keywords, but what ends up happening, and we've seen a lot of articles over the last couple of months because of the Great Resignation, that top qualified candidates for your job are getting pushed out of the process automatically without a human ever looking at the resume because of this technology. So that's where technology can go bad. Where technology can go good is when it supports us, when it supports
the humans. It supports the humans, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Technology should be a companion. Technology should make us better, but it should not replace us. And that's where our belief, the IA in InterviewIA stands for intelligence amplification. We are here to amplify and augment the interviewer, to make them better with every interview, to make it so that every candidate experience is inclusive. Every candidate feels like they got an equal chance at that job. And by the way, what we've seen through our process is most of the time companies want to hire 2 or 3 of the candidates from that candidate pool for one role, right? And so some people create a new role, or they'll recommend them to another team. So you've created now this experience that not only is great for the interviewer because they get to be a brand ambassador now. They get to roll out the red carpet, and they get to feel supported and not stressed about the process because it's all right there. It's all here in front of me. I just need to follow it. And
no brainer. I don't have to, think 5 million ways to sundown, prior to an interview, what I'm going to ask. And what I like about that, what you shared, is about the team, that team element.
Yeah.
So consistency, that's huge, huge.
And transparency, right? Because every interviewer in the process now has a voice, and their voice gets to be heard because it's all taken into account within the system automatically. That's where technology helps. That's where machine learning, the right algorithms, things that can learn as you learn become really powerful. But everybody's voice in the process gets heard. And we'll talk about some of the biases that impacts, that mitigates, because there are biases like groupthink, where we go through the interview process, then we all get together a week later to share our notes. Well, first of all, recall bias. I'm only remembering the things about candidates that I liked. And then you've got groupthink, which is where the hiring manager or an executive or some other leader comes in and says, well, I think we need to go with this candidate. I like this candidate. So everybody else just falls in line because who's going to say no? Who's going to disagree?
Yeah, exactly. And, that's what, when we created the Disruptor Summit, it was about to disrupt groupthink. I mean, that is exactly. So everybody has a voice in that process, right? And you're so, boy, you hit that nail on the head when it comes to groupthink. And it's interesting because we had a member of the Better Job Fit team when we were putting our event together, and we used the term groupthink. And she said, well, Jane, I don't think people will know what that means. I said, well, you know what? You don't really have to know much, but I think the word it pretty much is self-descriptive on that, right? Groupthink. It just means that there's no other or opposing view. So that really, like you said, that even verges on apathy, right? When the company, when people, because number one, they're not willing to put their opinion on the line to disrupt, maybe the boss, right? Or just say, well, I'm not working with that person directly, so who cares who
It doesn't matter
gets hired.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think apathy is more dangerous than ignorance at some point.
Yep. Oh, 100% agree.
Oh, I love this. It sounds like initially the mission is to find ways to not like a candidate before one meets or knows them. That's exactly right. We have a LinkedIn user that's weighing in, and that's what we were saying early on, that the process is about exclusion. And what UB and I are sharing is we need to put more inclusion, and how do we use and leverage AI and technology to be more inclusive and to support the interviewer. That's the whole point. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I like the way that you say that, because it's, I think we need to switch our mindset on what the interview is supposed to be. It's not a song and dance necessarily. It's not a chit chat and, oh my God, you love to read and drink beer. So do I. That's great. And that's part of culture building and team building, but it's not related to if this person can do the job. And so that's what we have to start to distinguish those things. And I tell you what, candidates love the fact so one thing we do is we send the questions ahead of time. Because again, there's no
Okay, write the date down. Write this date down. UB, are you kidding me?
Send
I
them
love it. I love
we're
it.
not trying to trip anybody up. There's no secret answer, right? There's an answer that's right for us, but there's no right or wrong answer. And so if you define that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They can prepare all day long.
Right.
And so why not create that transparency and efficiency? Let me tell you, the interview doesn't become an hour and a half.
Right.
It becomes 18 minutes because you're getting exactly what relevant data you need so that you can make a decision quickly. Then you can start to develop those relationships. But you've done it already. You've built trust in the process because the candidate knows exactly what's happening when and how they're being treated compared to everybody else. They're all being given an equitable and equal chance. They're being treated equitably.
Well, and how I just love the fact that you send the questions beforehand. I know that doesn't, some people might think, okay, that's not a big deal. I don't know. I think it's huge because you're laying the groundwork. I mean, first of all, who does that? Second of all, who does that? But second of all, like you said, that's being transparent, and you're saying, hey, here are the questions. This is what we're going to talk about. They're relative to the position.
Yeah.
Person can feel their best and they're confident, right? Both candidate and interviewer can feel their best. I mean, what more when you think of how can you every day, all day, create the best feeling in the people that you interview, right? No, they may not be the best fit for the job, or you might not hire them, but golly, it sure is nice to be able to honor and respect a candidate and honor the process that you're both going through by sharing that information, making sure that they feel confident. I mean, that is such an honoring and human
well, and it's
gift. Thank you, UB. Seriously, that is just unbelievable.
Well, and it's how do we set people up for success? And that's the first step, and that should continue. I mean, why not ask candidates, what do you need from us to be successful? What do you need to bring your whole self to work every day? And that's
people need to, and they need to know the answer to that, because half of those questions do require people to reflect and do a lot of reflection. Right. I mean, they're poignant questions that if you're just asked that, I don't know about you, but I would need some time I would like to thoughtfully respond to that, but give me time to ask myself that question, right?
Exactly. Well, and the other thing too, if you want to diversify your candidate pool truly, then that question helps you to better understand an amazing group of people from the disabled community, who 80% of which are unemployed right now because companies don't know if they can support them.
Right.
You can. The technology exists. And now with work from home, it's even better, right? Because they've already taken care of that for themselves at home. So how do you just support? So it's a clarifying question that's super powerful, that gives you the opportunity to really diversify the people you're talking to.
That is so true. Joe, thank you so much. She says, we focus so much on building rapport, we get lost with the affinity piece and it railroads the process. Structure out the window, and no assessment of competency, value, or behavior. So love that. So thank you so much, Joe. That is so true. Like you said, UB, we're talking about, what kind of beer do you like? Look, that's great, to develop some rapport in the beginning, but come on now, we got to move this along.
That only matters for like team happy hours. I mean, it does. A quick way to summarize that is take the lesson, leave the story. Meaning, take really only capture the data that's relevant to the job, not the story of they like beer and they're snowboarders. Like, again, unless snowboarding is a part of the required criteria for the job, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You know, and we talk about in our behavior diversity, I mean, that's huge for us because that's dealing with the differences we can't see. And, you know, through the process of, you know, the surveys, initial surveys that maybe a lower position HR generalist may get on the horn, right? Get on the
Right.
call and be the first contact of a candidate. And they've got this survey, right? And they're saying, you know, checking off a box and they're asking questions. Well, that's just so bias driven because on a subconscious level, because it may be like a position they're interviewing for a sales position. Well,
Mhm.
you know as well as I do, there are 7 successful behavior ranges for certain behaviors
Mhm.
that connect to a great salesperson. Well, if
Right.
you have an HR person that is the total behavioral opposite on
Absolutely.
those scales, they're going to be scoring, and I've seen it, and this is fact. They
Yeah.
score the best person lower
Yeah.
than what, because behavioral differences, that energetic resistance gap, behavior resistance gap is so different that you just lost a great candidate for a sales position, right? Just
Well,
by the very nature that your process, your interviewing process is not based on the job,
exactly. Well,
right?
and it's that's exactly it. And that's the halo effect bias, right? Where, oh my God, they're a great interviewer. That means they're going to be great at everything they do.
Right,
No. Again, you know, it's like just because their resume looks pristine doesn't mean they're going to be a really amazing at every other thing that you
right.
think they're going to do. And that's we do that so easily because you know why? Because basically it's easier for our brains to process that. Our brains don't like to be in pain, right? They don't want us to feel
Right.
uncomfortable or uncertain. And so we latch on to familiar, we latch on to easy, frankly.
And
And so,
generalizing, right?
and
It's real easy.
generalizing, I mean, it's super easy to do that because it makes us feel better. It makes us feel better physically and
That
mentally.
that that is crazy. You know, when we also were talking about, um, first of all, again, I just love the fact that you send the questions. I know that's just like it, just
It's
so
just,
basic, but
but it is, but
it's
it's a,
honor. That's what I'm
yes,
saying. It just
trust.
really shows honoring the other individual. I value you. I want you to show up with your best self
Yeah,
for this, for our time together.
absolutely.
Also though, your very essence of respecting other human beings comes across with that, so I can't help but know that that bleeds in and integrates in with your process and what your team
Absolutely.
has developed. You
Thank you.
know, I did want to ask, what I love, if you would share with people how you literally, your personal experience,
Mhm.
that you really shifted your mindset and really provided that fuel for passion to getting people in the right position and having that great experience. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this was back in end of 2008 or 9, on my birthday. There was a shooting incident, a workplace violence incident at the little software company I was working at. A friend of mine who had left the company had come back to sort of close out and get his money that he was owed and that sort of thing. And the owner shot and killed him and then tried to kill
Wow.
himself. And you know that there's all kinds of things behind that, but
Yeah.
ultimately that pushed me down a path of one, safety, right? Like nobody should ever think that they have to be safe from that
Right.
scenario. And granted, you know, it in the grand scheme of things, those incidents are few and far between. But so that's one extreme. The other, you know, in the middle though, are still these behaviors and things that people shouldn't have to endure. You know, oppression, racism, sexism, bullying, you know, just microaggressions and dehumanization comments. And nobody should have to do that. I don't go to work to do that. I go to work because I hopefully love what I'm doing,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and
That's
so
exactly right.
that was really the impetus for me. And then this path sort of became a lot like how can I actionably and tactically make a difference? How can I help companies change that? You know, because I played in the diversity and equity and inclusion world from a training perspective for a while, and it's great. But I think DEI as an industry is sort of at an interesting place right now because
Yeah.
we haven't seen a lot of results.
Well, and
outcome.
that's right. And a lot what we did with behavior diversity in our research was, you know, why is that, right? Why is it not working? And we found it's the shame and blame
Yeah,
that's being put out there, and our brains shut down, literally shut down, and it physically blocks our hearing.
That's right.
So, you know, I even, you know, a lot of people say, well, with behavior diversity, is that D&I? And I said, you know, we're about equity leadership, because it's not about the differences that we can see, it's about the differences we can't see. So that's why I love what your personal experience, and both of our, you know, that synchronicity of saying our personal experiences gave us that purpose drive and that purpose driven step to take the next. And how can we take our gifts to create a product or service that's going to help what we experience, right? And others we know are experiencing it. So we want to ask, is there anybody that has any questions? So feel free to type them in. But
Please.
UB, I mean, we just really, I'm excited to really, it's the official launch, I want to know all about it, so we can collaborate and be able to support you on that. We're going to also be putting in that special link for our viewers and listeners and subscribers to get that free, it's going to be a free
it's
trial.
A free account. It's a free account, and
I love it.
Yeah, you can go in and you get access to, we have a bunch of pre-built interview templates. You can build your own, or like I said, there's pre-built ones. So you can download those. You have access to one smart scorecard. So those are the templates, but used in the system, right? So you can open up a job. Let's say you're hiring for something, and you can create that job, upload your candidates, pop open this interview, and take them through that interview. And then what you start to do is you start to manage your top of the funnel really nicely. Like you can quickly and easily put together a qualified candidate pool that then enters the rest of your process. So yeah, it's there to just start. That free one is there to start to help you understand the power of structured interviews and the kind of, you know, it's like the easy button of interviewing is, you know, but I want it to be that. I don't want people to struggle. They should be able to sign in and go. And that's the goal.
So they'll be able to click on that link, and we have that special link for our attendees and subscribers. So that'll walk them through everything, UB?
Yep, they'll just walk
step
through,
by step.
No credit card required. It's literally just email and go. And then they'll get their login link. They'll log in, and we have pop-up wizards that guide them through. It's a tour of every step of the process. I mean, you can be up and running in less than 30 minutes.
So ideal. So they literally, if they have somebody that they, you know, want to hire, right? Or they have a position to fill, they could start using it now walk them through the whole process.
Exactly.
I love it. Now, how is that? So the launch for next week is going to be what? What is the service on that one?
That one is it's just putting a fine point on all of it. So we had to build in some functionality so that the free will be the same. Then you can easily upgrade to, I think it's like $72 a year. That gets you unlimited access to everything.
That is like nothing when you think about the risk of being sued.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think legal. You know, I think that the compliance end. Okay, well, let's not make it difficult.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. You know, the risk and compliance piece, because that's the world I then came from. Right? It's so important, but HR is typically in that CYA mode constantly.
Yeah.
And that's why they get a bad rap. And so how do we change that, right? So but yeah, so that middle section, which will go live next, the interviewer plan is really for that interviewer who's it's robust tools, reporting, right? They can look and see and understand what questions are more effective than others and that sort of thing. And then the team
Nice.
level, I think the team level is $120 a year per person. And you can now have multiple people in there on one account. So you can create panel interviews. You can create an interview process. So let's say you got 3 rounds of interviews, boom, boom, boom. And then everybody's information is right there. You can stack and rank the candidates and make a hiring decision that's now confident, right? It's based
Right.
on data. And then the system, again, every time you hire, the system's learning. So you're constantly getting better. The data is constantly getting better. And you can really truly start to see, how your interview process is now impacting your diversity numbers, and just
Nice.
all kinds of things, right? But that's the goal.
That is awesome. Well, I love the fact that you make it easy for people,
Yeah.
but most of all, my friend, I just love the fact that you have taken your honor for in respect of others and put it actually into a software program that now can live indefinitely, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
truly a wonderful living legacy that you've created. So
I
thank you
appreciate
so
that.
much for sharing part of your afternoon and just sharing time, and I just so appreciate you.
No, you too. Thank you. I love that you're disrupting a much needed process, and putting the human back into it, because that's the key. The human is the key, right?
Yeah,
And
that
so
back in the human back into HR, right?
that's
Human
it.
resources. I mean, I
That's
just
it.
love the fact that that's what we need to up our human game now. So I
Yep.
just love the fact that you're in with our network and
Me
standing
too.
beside us. So thank you so much, UB, for
Cheers.
your time. And Joe and attendees, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And replay will be available shortly. Take care.
Awesome. Bye. Thank you.